Far away, in the depths of the last ice age, the world is vast, cold, and unsettled. Great sheets of ice spread across continents, locking oceans, lowering sea levels, and reshaping the land. Valleys deepen, rivers shift, and winds carry dry snow across endless plains. Life continues despite the harshness. Reindeer, bison, and mammoth move in wide herds. People follow them step by step, carrying tools of stone, fire, and memory. At the edges of these small encampments, another presence lingers. Wolves, grey shapes at twilight, eyes glowing faintly as they watch the flicker of firelight. They are not strangers to these landscapes. Wolves are hunters of the open steppe, swift and enduring, skilled at reading trails and circling prey. Their cries rise at night, echoing through the frozen silence. For humans, the sound is both warning and reminder. Competition lies just beyond the glow of the hearth. At this moment in deep time, two species, humans and wolves, share the same prey, the same roots, the same cold winds. They are rivals, yet their paths overlap again and again. Sometimes, wolves track the remains left by human hunters. Sometimes, people stumble across wolf kills, still warm, stripped by teeth. The boundary between hunter and scavenger blurs, and the edges of firelight become a zone of uncertain possibility. Archaeologists trace these encounters through scattered signs, bones of wolves mixed with bones of prey, cut marks left by stone blades alongside tooth impressions, fire pits where discarded scraps suggest that not all was eaten. These fragments do not tell a story in full, but they hint at a rhythm. Wolves circling camps, humans watching them, both weighing risk against reward. The Ice Age landscape itself shapes the meeting. Steppe tundra stretches far beyond sight. Grasses grow low, hardy, and sparse. Winters are long, summers brief. Herd animals migrate constantly, never pausing for long. For hunters, this means mobility, vigilance, and hunger. For wolves, it means constant following, endurance, and fierce competition. Neither species can stand still for long. And yet, the warmth of fire and the remains of carcasses create small points of attraction, tiny magnets pulling wolves closer. At first, closeness is dangerous. A wolf pack that comes too near risks arrows, spears, or stones. Humans that wander too far risk teeth and claws. Still, not all encounters end in blood. Some wolves linger at a distance, just beyond the reach of firelight, patient, waiting for scraps. People notice this pattern. The bolder wolves survive the night without attack. The less aggressive ones remain, night after night, learning the strange rhythms of human camps. The detail is faint but telling. In several Paleolithic sites, wolf remains bear marks not of hunting, but of burial. In Przedmosti, in what is now the Czech Republic, skulls of large canids have been uncovered, placed deliberately among human bones. Some show wear patterns that do not match wild wolves. Their teeth are blunted. Their diets seem altered by proximity to people. Whether these are early dogs or wolves adapted to human presence remains debated, but the evidence suggests that not all wolves stayed entirely wild. Genetics adds another layer. Modern dogs diverged from wolves tens of thousands of years ago. Estimates vary widely, from 15,000 years to as far back as 30,000 years. The deeper numbers point toward an Ice Age origin, not in villages, but in camps where fire burned against snow. This mystery remains unsettled. Some researchers argue for a single origin in one region. Others suggest multiple points of domestication, with several groups of humans and wolves forming bonds, only some of which lasted. At this early stage, no clear companionship exists yet. Instead, there is curiosity. Humans watch the wolves at the edge. Wolves watch the humans in return. Their senses are sharp. They smell marrow within bones, hear the crackle of fire, sense warmth and shelter. Over time, hunger outweighs fear. One wolf steps closer, ears low, tail down, body angled away. A piece of discarded bone lies on the ground. The wolf seizes it, then darts back into the dark. The people watch, but do not pursue. The exchange is brief, wordless, and without plan. Yet such moments, multiplied over centuries, begin to carve a new path for both species. Planetary forces frame this tentative link. The Ice Age is near its coldest phase. Glaciers cover northern Europe and North America. Sea levels are lower than today, exposing land bridges and wide coastal plains. The distance from one hunting ground to another is immense, greater than a march from Paris to Seoul in modern terms. In such vastness, survival often depends on noticing small chances. Wolves notice scraps. Humans notice that not every wolf is a threat. A quiet shift begins. Lesser-known details appear in the record. At Goyet Cave in Belgium, canid skulls dated to more than 30,000 years ago show features not quite wolf, not quite dog. Their snouts are shorter, their jaws shaped differently. Some scientists call them Paleolithic dogs. Others hesitate, suggesting regional wolf variation. But the possibility lingers. Perhaps here, in the firelit caves of Ice Age Europe, the first steps toward domestication unfolded. Still, mysteries remain. Was domestication intentional, with humans capturing wolf pups and raising them? Or did it emerge slowly, with wolves taming themselves by choosing to live near camps? The evidence cannot yet decide. What is clear is that over long stretches of time, humans tolerated certain wolves, and those wolves tolerated humans. From such tolerance, deep bonds could eventually grow. Imagine the edge of a camp 25,000 years ago. A ring of stones holds glowing embers. Shadows flicker against hides stretched for shelter. The air smells of smoke, fat, and frozen earth. Beyond, faint eyes gleam. They do not attack, they wait. Within the circle, hunters whisper in low tones, sharpening blades, mending clothing. Outside, wolves crouch, tails brushing the snow. Between them, a silent negotiation takes place, one that will shape millennia of companionship still to come. In the stillness of that shared night, the Ice Age holds its breath. Nothing is yet certain. The wolves may retreat. The humans may chase them off. But a line has been crossed. Wolves and people now live not only in the same world, but at its edges together. Firelight and hunger draw them close. Step by step, a path opens toward something new. A relationship unlike any other in the history of life on Earth. Across the frozen continents of the last Ice Age, vast herds of animals move in steady rhythm. They are the pulse of survival. Reindeer sweep across the tundra, antlers shifting like forests of bone. Bison cluster in dark masses. their heavy heads pushing snow aside to find the grasses hidden beneath. Woolly mammoth, immense and slow, trace old paths across valleys and ridges, leaving trails that others follow for seasons uncounted. Each migration shapes the life of everything around it. Humans follow too. Bands of hunters and families move behind the herds, sometimes close, sometimes at a distance. They carry tools of flint and bone, hides stretched tight over their shoulders, fire bundled in embers to be kindled again each night. Their steps mark a journey across plains stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Every move depends on the animals ahead. When the herds shift north, the people follow north. When the herds turn east, the camps turn east. Survival is tied to hooves and paths laid down long before human memory. Wolves know this rhythm even more deeply. For generations beyond counting, they have shadowed the herds, working as one to single out the weak, the sick, or the young. Their bodies are built for distance. Long legs, narrow chests, lungs wide for breath. A wolf can trot for hours without rest. They follow scent, track movement, sense patterns invisible to human eyes. Where the herds go, the wolves go. In this frozen world, their paths cross endlessly with the trails of people. The overlap is more than coincidence. Herd animals gather where grass still grows beneath thin snow, where valleys shelter warmth, or rivers bend to leave ground soft enough for roots. Humans find these places too. Camps appear near rivers where fish dart below ice, and near cliffs where herds sometimes fall, leaving carcasses behind. Wolves, drawn by the same signs, linger on the edges. Once again, firelight meets watchful eyes. Archaeological remains show this shared pursuit. In open-air sites across Central Europe, bones of reindeer, horse, and bison are found in heaps, marked both by stone tools and by teeth. Cut marks show where people sliced flesh and cracked bone for marrow. Gnaw marks show where wolves fed too, either before or after human hunters. These traces suggest a constant interplay. Sometimes wolves reached the carcass first. Sometimes people drove wolves away. At times, perhaps, both fed from the same kill, separated only by caution. The climate sets the scale. Glaciers press down across the north, making summers short and winters long. Sea levels fall by more than 100 meters, exposing wide coastal shelves where grass spreads like steppe. From Spain across to Siberia, a corridor of open tundra stretches thousands of kilometers, a frozen highway for animal migrations. Humans and wolves both depend on this corridor. It is a space of abundance, but also competition. One lesser-known detail lies in the distances covered. Seasonal migrations of reindeer can exceed 500 kilometers, moving from wintering grounds in forests to summer-feeding lands on tundra plains. To keep pace, humans and wolves alike must travel farther in a year than the length of entire countries. For Ice Age people carrying children, tools, and food, such journeys required endurance and planning. For wolves, bred by evolution for ceaseless movement, the migrations are life itself. The fact that both species managed to remain near the same herds shows how closely their worlds were entwined. Scientists still debate whether wolves learned to follow humans as they trailed herds, or whether humans sometimes followed wolves, reading their hunts to find animals. The evidence is thin, scattered in bones and tracks. But the possibility is striking. Perhaps wolves taught humans new ways of seeing the land, and humans, in turn, changed which wolves survived by sparing the ones less hostile. The mystery of who led and who followed remains unsolved. Night falls again over the plains. A human band camps near a river crossing, hides stretched to block the wind. Sparks rise into a sky bright with stars. Beyond the circle of firelight, shadows drift. Wolves pace at a distance, sensing meat hung in branches, hearing the cries of children, smelling the iron tang of fresh blood on snow. They wait. A herd will cross the river tomorrow. Wolves know the routes, as do the hunters. Both will be ready. In this setting, the first steps toward contact deepen. Wolves that linger too close may be driven off with shouts and stones. But not all wolves are bold. Some hang back, keeping distance, neither threatening nor fleeing. These animals learn to balance risk and reward. Over generations, such choices matter. The wolves willing to wait, to circle without attacking, find scraps more often. The people, in turn, notice which wolves do not strike, which ones can be tolerated. Step by step, patience becomes a survival trait. Planetary forces remain in motion, ice sheets 2 kilometers thick way down the northern lands. Winds drive low, fine dust across open plains, coating the ground in pale layers. Rivers cut through frozen soil, carving canyons that twist for kilometers. The world feels enormous, shifting, still raw. And yet, within it, humans and wolves trace paths that echo each other. They share the same wind, the same frozen silence, the same scent of reindeer drifting across the night air. Another detail emerges from Grotte du Renoir in France, where deposits suggest both human and wolf activity centered on horse remains. The overlapping traces blur the line between competitor and partner. The wolves and humans were both there, working the same carcasses, perhaps only hours apart. For scientists, this suggests the closeness of their relationship long before domestication was complete. The question lingers, were wolves drawn more to the herds or to the humans who trailed them? Did scraps left at camps become more reliable than chasing prey? Or did humans themselves begin to recognize wolves as silent trackers of herds? Animals whose movements could be read like signs. The answers remain beyond reach. Yet the pattern is clear. Across the icelands, both species lived within the orbit of migrating animals, never far from one another. Imagine the endless plains, a horizon with no end, snow crunching beneath every step. Reindeer move steadily forward, breath steaming, hooves clattering against frozen ground. Behind them, hunters walk in silence, tools ready. Farther back, wolves trot in lines, noses low, tails swaying. The whole scene stretches like a moving river across the earth, each group tied to the next, bound by survival. In these shared journeys, the stage is set for something unprecedented. Rivalry is constant, yet possibility grows. Wolves learn to circle not just herds, but human camps. Humans learn to see wolves not only as threats, but as creatures that endure the same endless march. On this path across the frozen steppe, companionship becomes imaginable. The herds lead, the humans follow, and the wolves follow too. 3 species linked by migration, hunger, and the long road of the Ice Age. Across the shifting steppes of the last Ice Age, survival depends on awareness. Every being, whether mammoth, reindeer, human, or wolf, lives by watching, listening, and anticipating what comes next. In this frozen world, paths cross constantly. Humans hunt, wolves hunt, and both depend on the same herds. Their competition is sharp, yet their stories begin to intertwine. Over time, the boundaries of rivalry blur into something subtler, parallel strategies that sometimes clash, sometimes align, always shaped by the cold and the chase. The Ice Age landscape stretches far beyond sight. Flat horizons fade into white haze. Winds blow hard, carrying snow like dust across empty plains. Glacial rivers cut through the ground, frozen at their edges, rushing beneath with icy force. On this stage, herds graze restlessly, sensing danger in every shadow. People move behind them, fires carried from camp to camp. Wolves follow too, their tracks pressed deep into snow. The three movements overlap, creating a living network that repeats season after season. Humans hunt with planning. They read tracks, note wind, direction, and drive animals toward traps or waiting spears. Wolves hunt with coordination. They spread wide, communicate through subtle signals, and close in on a chosen target. Though different in method, both strategies require cooperation and memory. In this way, wolves and humans resemble one another more than either resembles the solitary hunter, like the cave lion or the bear. Both are social predators, dependent on group action and shared knowledge. Archaeological evidence hints at this shared survival. At sites in Siberia and Central Europe, large deposits of reindeer and horse bones suggest mass hunts where entire groups of people work together. Some of these bones bear marks not only of human blades, but also of wolf teeth, showing that scavenging occurred soon after the kill. In some cases, the overlap is so close that researchers debate whether wolves and humans fed at the same time, separated only by firelight or courage. These clues reveal not only competition, but proximity, the closeness of lives circling the same prey. Planetary conditions made such overlap inevitable. With sea levels lowered by more than 100 meters, wide grasslands spread across regions now drowned beneath ocean. These open corridors supported immense numbers of grazing animals, but they also forced predators into constant pursuit. The herds never stopped moving, for humans and wolves alike. To pause too long meant hunger. Both species were nomads, always searching for the next crossing, the next feeding ground, the next chance to live. One lesser-known detail speaks to the scale of this survival. Studies of wolf bones from the Ice Age reveal that many had injuries, broken teeth, healed fractures, scars from hunts gone wrong. These wolves survived despite such wounds, proof of pack cooperation. Humans, too, show similar patterns. Skeletal remains reveal hunters who lived long after injuries that would have crippled a solitary being. They survived because others cared for them. Both species carried the mark of survival through social bonds, not only through strength. This shared reliance on cooperation may have been the first bridge between them. Humans could see in wolves a reflection of their own way of life, groups moving together, supporting one another, surviving by planning as much as by force. Wolves, in turn, may have sensed in human camps a kind of extended pack, strange yet familiar, where scraps and fire offered new chances. Still, tension remained. When prey was scarce, humans and wolves could clash violently. Evidence from kill sites shows cut marks on wolf bones, suggesting they were sometimes hunted for meat or fur. At other times, humans drove wolves away from carcasses with stones and fire. Yet even in such conflict, wolves learned. Some packs grew wary, keeping their distance. Others learned patience, returning only after humans had taken what they wanted. Over generations, such patterns shaped wolf behavior, selecting for those willing to wait, to linger at the edges rather than strike. Mysteries persist in this stage of the story. Were wolves actively watching humans hunt, learning from their strategies? Or did humans notice wolves trailing herds and use their presence as signs of where prey could be found? No evidence can decide, but the possibility of silent cooperation lingers. Perhaps a group of hunters noticed wolves circling a herd and knew the animals were near. Perhaps wolves realized that humans often left behind bones still rich with marrow. Without words, a rhythm of mutual benefit may have begun. Imagine a broad plain, dusk falling, herds already bedding down. Hunters crouch in the snow, watching, spears ready. Farther out, wolves fan across the field, their silhouettes low and silent. Both wait for movement, both watching the same herd. When the humans move, so do the wolves. Their actions may collide, or they may unfold side by side. To the prey, the danger is doubled. To the predators, the pattern is familiar. They share not a campfire, not yet, but a role, seekers of the weak, readers of the herd. Planetary forces frame every moment. Glaciers grow, shrinking forests, expanding tundra. Winds sweep nutrients across the plains, feeding grasses that feed herds, which in turn feed wolves and humans alike. This chain is fragile. A shift in climate, a sudden storm, or a migration cut short by frozen rivers could mean hunger for all. In such instability, the closeness of wolves and humans deepened, shaped not by choice alone, but by the larger pulse of Earth itself. Lesser-known traces suggest that even before full domestication, wolves left marks in human imagination. Carved figurines from Upper Paleolithic sites sometimes resemble canids, their forms distinct from bears or lions. Whether these were wolves, proto-dogs, or symbolic animals remains uncertain. Yet their presence in art shows recognition, perhaps even respect. Humans were watching wolves carefully enough to carve their likeness, recording them in bone and ivory alongside images of mammoth and horse. The shared path of survival does not yet mean companionship. It means proximity, recognition, and the possibility of tolerance. Wolves still howl in the night, warning of their presence. Humans still guard their camps carefully, but slowly the relationship shifts. In the cold silence of the Ice Age, both species move step by step, always within sight of one another. Their survival strategies, so similar in spirit, draw them closer. One day, on a ridge above a frozen valley, a wolf pack and a human band both pause to watch a herd of reindeer below. Neither moves at first. Both groups study the patterns of movement, sensing which animal is weakest, where the herd might break. For a moment, they mirror one another, two social predators bound by the same rules of life on the steppe. From such mirrors, bonds can grow. The path toward companionship begins here, in the long rhythm of survival shared across ice and distance. In the stillness of an Ice Age evening, camps flicker with the orange glow of small fires. Hides are stretched to block the wind, stones ring the hearths, and smoke drifts upward into the endless night. Around the circle of warmth, families sit close, tools in hand, food cooking slowly, beyond the reach of firelight. The dark is alive with sound, wind across snow, distant cracking of ice, the faint shifting of herds, and sometimes the soft crunch of paws on frozen ground. Wolves hover at the boundary of this fragile circle. Eyes glimmer faintly, ears pricked forward, bodies low and cautious. For countless generations, wolves have circled human camps, sometimes bold, sometimes wary. Most keep their distance, but a few linger longer, testing the edges of fear. It is here, in these silent encounters, that the first quiet approaches begin. The record of archaeology preserves hints of these early moments. At Przedmosty in Moravia, skulls of large canids, wolves or early dogs were uncovered near human burials, dating more than 20,000 years ago. Some skulls were arranged deliberately, not discarded like waste. A few show wear on teeth that suggests diets not entirely wild. These fragments do not tell the whole story, but they whisper of closeness, of wolves living nearer to people than their untamed kin. Genetic studies, too, point back toward this time. Analyses of ancient canid DNA show divergence between wolves and the ancestors of dogs tens of thousands of years ago. The estimates vary, but some push back as far as 30,000 years. This means that long before the rise of villages, before the dawn of farming, something began between humans and wolves. It began not with collars or leashes, but with simple proximity. Wolves approaching the fire, humans tolerating their presence there. The Ice Age environment shapes every detail of this fragile interaction. Herds move constantly, never pausing for long. Food is precious and waste is rare. Yet no hunt consumes every scrap. Bones, sinew, fat clinging to hides, these remain after the best cuts are taken. To wolves, such leavings are treasure. A carcass abandoned by hunters could sustain a pack for days. Over time, wolves learn to trail not just herds, but humans, sensing that scraps near a campfire may be easier to obtain than chasing reindeer across frozen plains. Not all wolves take the risk. Aggression brings spears and stones. Boldness can mean death. But those that are quieter, less threatening, sometimes succeed. A wolf approaches low, ears flat, tail curved. It seizes a bone and retreats into the dark. The humans do not chase. They have already eaten, their hunger satisfied for the moment. This exchange, simple and wordless, repeats in different places, at different times, over generations. It shapes both species. One lesser-known clue comes from a site in Belgium known as Goyet Cave. Here, canid remains more than 30,000 years old show unusual traits, shorter snouts, tooth-wear patterns, and diets richer in protein scraps from humans. Whether these are true dogs or wolves drawn into close contact is debated, but the evidence suggests that by this time, at least in some places, wolves were already feeding regularly from the edges of human camps. The mystery lies in intent. Did humans actively encourage certain wolves, perhaps even capturing pups and raising them? Or did wolves tame themselves, slowly selecting for gentleness and patience as they lingered near firelight? The debate continues. Many researchers lean toward self-domestication, a process where wolves that were less fearful survived better near humans, and over time, their descendants grew more tolerant. Yet some argue that humans must have played a role, noticing the usefulness of these animals, beginning to shape them deliberately. The truth may lie between a mixture of choice and chance. Planetary forces frame this story. Ice sheets weigh heavily on the continents, winters deepen, summers remain brief. The survival of both species rests on fragile margins. Against this vast backdrop, the quiet approach of a wolf to a fire seems small, but its consequences ripple through millennia. A single tolerated presence may lead, in time, to loyalty. The planet moves on vast cycles, yet in its shadow, two species draw close across the snow. The scene repeats again and again. A camp in the Ural Mountains, a fire burning low, hunters carve marrow from long bones. Children drift into sleep. Beyond, a wolf creeps near, the crunch of snow almost silent. It takes a bone, flees, then returns the next night. The humans watch, but no spear is thrown. Slowly, tolerance grows. It is possible that early humans saw value in these visitors. Wolves hear what people do not. They smell what people cannot. A wolf pacing the edge of camp may sense danger long before a hunter does. Though not yet guardians, their presence may have been noted, even if only unconsciously. For humans surrounded by vast, open darkness, eyes that watch beyond the fire could mean survival. Lesser-known signs of ritual hint at this perception. At some Paleolithic burial sites, canid bones appear alongside human remains, not as food waste, but as companions in death. Whether these were truly dogs or unusual wolves is uncertain, but the fact of their inclusion speaks of recognition. To bury a wolf with a human is to see it as more than prey. It is to acknowledge a bond, however faint. Still, danger lingers in every approach. Not all wolves were gentle. Some circled too close, too hungry, too bold. Humans defended themselves, and most wolves remained wild, untouchable. The relationship was fragile, built not on control but on patience, trial, and chance. Yet out of this delicate balance, a pattern emerged: wolves that dared but did not attack, humans who tolerated rather than killed. Across centuries, this pattern laid the foundation for domestication. Imagine again the quiet of an Ice Age night. The fire crackles, sparks rising into frozen air. Shadows sway across hides and stone. Beyond, a shape moves slowly, almost invisible against snow. A wolf crouches low, eyes fixed on a bone tossed aside. It steps forward, every muscle tense. A child stirs but does not cry out. The wolf takes the bone, then melts into darkness. In that simple act, a threshold is crossed. No contract is spoken. No decision is formalized. But something begins, a fragile thread tying wolf and human in ways that will outlast the glaciers. The first quiet approach is not dramatic. It leaves no clear trace in memory, no single moment to mark the start. Yet in these silent exchanges, the world changes, step by step, bone by bone, night by night. The distance narrows. The wolves at the edge of firelight become more than rivals. They become possibilities, shadows waiting to step closer still. Across the long winters and brief summers of the Ice Age, a gradual shift takes place. Wolves that once circled camps at a distance begin to linger more closely. Their presence is no longer only that of rivals waiting for scraps. Something quieter, slower, and deeper unfolds. Over generations, tolerance becomes familiarity. Out of countless nights of watchfulness, an alliance begins to take shape, one not written in language, but in behavior, patience, and survival. The idea of alliance between humans and wolves seems improbable at first. Both are hunters, both depend on the same herds, and both are capable of aggression. Yet the similarities between them are also striking. Wolves are social, cooperative, and attentive to signals. They hunt as a pack, each individual reading the movements of the others. Humans, too, live by cooperation. Families and bands worked together to plan hunts, share food, and protect one another. In both species, survival depends on the group, not the solitary hunter. Perhaps it is here, in this mirrored way of life, that the possibility of partnership begins. Archaeological evidence supports the idea that some wolves began to diverge from their wild kin during this period. At sites such as Elisevici in Russia and Bonn Oberkassel in Germany, canid remains show features distinct from wild wolves. Their skulls are shorter, their jaws shaped differently, suggesting selective pressures at work. In Bonn Oberkassel, dated to more than 14,000 years ago, a dog was buried alongside two humans, its body carefully placed, not discarded. This burial stands as one of the clearest signs that wolves had, by then, become something new. Companions, not competitors. Yet the origins of this transformation stretch farther back into the long millennia when wolves first lingered near human firelight. Genetics tells part of the story. Studies of mitochondrial DNA suggest that the split between modern wolves and the ancestors of dogs began as early as 27,000 to 30,000 years ago. Other analyses propose multiple points of domestication, perhaps in different regions, with only some lineages surviving into the present. The debate continues, unresolved. But the consensus holds that domestication began during the Ice Age, long before farming villages emerged. The mechanism of this transformation is often described as self-domestication. Wolves less fearful of humans gained access to scraps of food. Those that were less aggressive survived better near camps. Over time, traits of tameness, reduced size, smaller teeth, altered behavior spread through their descendants. Unlike animals later tamed by human design, early wolves may have shaped their own path toward domestication by choosing to live near people. Humans, for their part, tolerated the presence of those that posed little threat. This silent agreement, repeated generation after generation, formed the earliest alliance. One lesser-known detail lies in the pace of this change. Experiments with foxes in the 20th century showed that selecting for tameness alone produced animals with altered coats, floppy ears, and new behaviors in only a few dozen generations. If wolves experienced similar pressures at the edges of human camps, visible changes could have emerged within centuries. The wolves most willing to approach, the ones less fearful of human presence, would slowly begin to look and act different from their wild cousins. Planetary forces made this alliance valuable. During the last glacial maximum, food was scarce and winters harsh. A wolf that scavenged from human scraps faced less risk than one chasing reindeer through blizzards. A human camp that tolerated wolves gained an early warning system. For wolves sensed movement in the dark long before human ears could detect it. In a world of uncertainty, even small advantages mattered. The alliance was not yet full partnership, but it offered mutual survival. The mystery, however, remains. How deliberate was this bond? Did humans recognize the potential of wolves as helpers and begin actively raising pups? Or did they simply allow the least threatening wolves to linger until they became part of daily life? Archaeology cannot yet answer. Some scholars suggest that humans must have seen usefulness in wolves' senses and hunting ability. Others argue that no conscious plan was needed, that the bond arose naturally as wolves shaped themselves to human presence. Perhaps both views hold truth. Imagine a camp in the open tundra, the wind howling across endless plains. Hunters return with meat, skins heavy with frost, Bones are cracked for marrow, fat rendered by fire. As the feast ends, scraps are thrown aside. Shadows move at the edge of light, wolves waiting, not attacking, simply watching. A pup, bolder than the rest, creeps forward. Its body is low, ears flattened, tail tucked. It takes a bone and flees. But the next night, it returns. And the next. Over months, it lingers longer, its fear less sharp. A child tosses another scrap. No spear is raised. Slowly, a new rhythm settles into camp life. Lesser-known traces suggest that wolves may have served roles beyond scavengers even in these early days. Some archaeological finds show bones with wear patterns indicating that wolves or early dogs were tethered, perhaps restrained near camps. Whether for control, training, or ritual is unclear. But such signs suggest that the relationship had already gone beyond chance feeding. The alliance was beginning to take form in deliberate ways. Planetary change provides the backdrop. As glaciers expand and retreat, herds shift their routes. Humans migrate too, following rivers, valleys, and coastlines. Wolves, with their endurance and sharp senses, remain near. Across continents, this pattern repeats: camps built, fires lit, scraps discarded, wolves approaching. Over tens of thousands of years, the outcome is inevitable. The lines of survival intertwine. This new kind of alliance is fragile but profound. It alters the course of both species. For wolves, it opens a path toward domestication, reshaping their bodies and behavior. For humans, it creates the first partnership with another animal, a bond that will later grow into companionship, guardianship, and shared labor. No one at the time knows the scale of what is unfolding, but step by step, bone by bone, howl by howl, the alliance deepens. Picture once more the Ice Age night. The fire glows low. Families sleep under hides. Beyond, wolves wait. Some pace restlessly, but others lie quietly, bellies full from scraps, ears twitching at every sound. They are no longer only threats, they are watchers, guardians of the dark, tied by hunger and habit to the humans who tolerate them. The alliance is still young, still uncertain, but it has begun, and from it, 30,000 years of companionship will unfold. Across the deep timeline of human prehistory, some of the most haunting discoveries are burials. Graves preserve choices, deliberate acts made by people who wished to mark death with ritual. They reveal what mattered to communities, what bonds extended beyond life. When archaeologists uncover canid remains buried alongside humans, the evidence speaks of more than scavenging or chance. It hints at a recognition that wolves, or their early dog descendants, had crossed a threshold from outsiders to companions. One of the clearest signs lies in Bonn Oberkassel, Germany. More than 14,000 years ago, a man and a woman were buried together in a single grave. At their side lay a dog, carefully placed. Analysis of the dog's bones reveals it was young and had suffered from illness, possibly distemper. Yet it survived for weeks before death, cared for by humans who must have provided food and shelter during its sickness. Without such care, the animal would have perished far sooner. The burial shows deliberate inclusion. This was not waste. It was recognition of value, perhaps even affection. The implications reach backward into time. If by 14,000 years ago humans were burying dogs, the relationship had already been firmly established for millennia. Domestication cannot appear suddenly. It must have roots stretching thousands of years earlier, back into the Ice Age landscapes where wolves first lingered near fires. These burials serve as markers on a longer path, evidence that companionship had grown strong enough to shape ritual itself. Other sites echo the theme. At Elisevici in Russia, a canid was found buried in a human settlement more than 17,000 years ago. Its skull shows traits distinct from wolves, aligning more with early dogs. In Przedmosty, Czech Republic, skulls of large canids were discovered arranged in deliberate ways, some with carvings or marks that suggest symbolic value. Whether these animals were seen as guardians, companions, or spiritual beings remains uncertain. But their presence in ritual spaces is undeniable. One lesser-known detail comes from the dog of Bonn Oberkassel itself. Genetic studies show that this animal already belonged to a distinct lineage, separate from wolves, proving that domestication had begun long before. Its inclusion in burial alongside humans reflects not only physical change but also a cultural bond. Humans no longer treated these animals as wild predators. They were part of the group, honored in death as in life. The mystery lies in meaning. What did these burials signify to the people who made them? Were dogs seen as hunters' partners, guardians of the camp, or guides into the afterlife? Archaeologists debate these questions without final answers. The evidence is sparse, interpretations cautious. Some suggest that the act of burial implies spiritual kinship, that dogs were considered beings with roles extending beyond survival. Others see it as practical respect for their usefulness. The truth is likely a mixture of both, utility woven into ritual, companionship into memory. Planetary forces frame these discoveries. As glaciers retreat near the end of the Ice Age, climates shift rapidly, forests expand into plains, herd routes change. Human groups settle for longer periods in certain regions, though still mobile, still tied to migration. In such setting, the role of dogs grows more distinct. They are no longer only scavengers. They participate in the rhythms of human life. Burials record this transformation at a scale as vast as climate itself. Archaeology provides more subtle hint. In some sites, dog teeth have been discovered drilled with holes, worn as pendants or ornaments. Whether symbolic or decorative, these objects show that humans valued not just the living animal, but also parts of it carried after death. This is not unique. Humans wore teeth of many animals, but dog remains suggest a closer bond, since the animals lived near people, shared daily life, and may have been mourned personally. Another detail emerges from burial patterns. At some sites, canids are found interred carefully, with signs of covering or arrangement, while at others they appear in refuse pits. This contrast may reflect cultural variation, some groups treating dogs as kin, others as tools or prey. The variation mirrors the complexity of early domestication itself, which did not occur in one place, one way, but across vast landscapes with different outcomes. The mystery deepens with genetics. Studies suggest that domesticated lineages may have originated in more than one region, possibly in both Europe and Asia, before blending over time. If true, this means that dogs may have been domesticated more than once, or at least that multiple populations of wolves entered into relationships with humans independently. Yet not all left descendants. Some early domestications may have vanished, leaving only fragments in the record. The burials we find may mark both successful bonds and lost ones. Imagine a burial more than 15,000 years ago. A shallow pit is dug into frozen ground. A man lies within, wrapped in hides, tools placed beside him. At his side rests a dog, its ribs fragile from sickness, yet its fur still thick, its body curled as though in sleep. Stones are placed over both. Snow falls lightly, covering the mound, for the living who watch. This act ties human and animal together in death, sealing a bond already strong in life. Such scenes remind us that domestication was not merely biological, it was cultural, social, even spiritual. The shaping of wolves into dogs was not only about food scraps and survival, it was also about recognition that these animals had a place among humans, not outside them. Burials preserve this recognition more clearly than any cut mark or genetic trace. They are deliberate choices, heavy with meaning. Planetary change continues as these rituals unfold. Ice sheets melt, rivers swell, coastlines flood, reshaping the world. Human groups adapt to new conditions, seeking stability in uncertain times. Dogs, already woven into their lives, move with them into changing environments. From the steppes of Europe to the forests of Asia, the pattern repeats. Humans burying dogs, honoring them, carrying their memory forward. The earliest burials of dogs are rare, scattered, and debated, but each one stands as evidence of a threshold crossed. Wolves that once prowled the edge of firelight had become something else, companions worthy of ritual, of care in sickness, of place in the grave. The mystery lies not in whether this bond existed, but in how deeply it was felt, how differently it was understood across cultures, and how it helped shape the shared path of survival. As archaeologists kneel beside these graves, brushing soil from bone, they see more than evidence. They see the first clear record of alliance carried into death. It is a quiet reminder that by the end of the Ice Age, the story of wolves and humans had already changed forever. The firelight that once kept them apart now bound them together, even in the stillness of burial. Long before villages, before fields of grain, before the shaping of metal, traces appear that suggest wolves were already becoming something different. These traces lie scattered in caves, buried in soil, preserved in fragments of bone and strands of ancient DNA. They are older than memory, stretching back into the deep millennia of the Ice Age. Their silence is difficult to interpret, yet their message is clear. The roots of domestication reach farther back than once believed. Archaeologists often begin with sites such as Goyet Cave in Belgium. Here, canid skulls more than 30,000 years old were uncovered. They show features unusual for wild wolves, shorter, broader snouts, and toothwear suggesting diets richer in protein scraps. Some researchers argue these were Paleolithic dogs, an early form distinct from both wolf and later domestic dog. Others remain cautious, suggesting regional variation in wolves. The debate is unresolved too, but the remains stand as a tantalizing clue. Another site lies at Przedmosty in the Czech Republic. Here, canid skulls were arranged among human burials dating more than 25,000 years ago. Some skulls appear to have been deliberately placed, perhaps as part of ritual. Their features once again differ from typical wolves, and isotopic analysis of their bones suggests they ate food connected to human settlements. These traces hint at a relationship already underway, long before the final retreat of the Ice Age glaciers. Genetics supports this possibility. Studies of mitochondrial DNA from both ancient and modern dogs suggest that domestication may have begun as early as 30,000 years ago. The divergence between wolves and the ancestors of dogs appears deep in time, not in the recent Neolithic world of farms and herds, but in the Paleolithic landscapes of hunters and reindeer. Yet genetic data also carry contradictions. Some lineages appear to have vanished, replaced by others. This suggests that early domestications may have occurred in several places, some fading, some surviving, until only a few lineages carried forward. One lesser-known detail lies in the evidence of canid diets. Isotopic analysis shows that certain ancient wolves consumed food rich in fish or other human-linked resources. At Ilisevici in Russia, a canid dated to more than 17,000 years ago shows isotopic values that match human diets closely, suggesting regular feeding on scraps or remains from human camps. This pattern of shared diet is a subtle but powerful marker of closeness, recorded in the very chemistry of bone. The mystery lies in continuity, where the canids of Goyet, Przedmosti, and Ilisevici, true ancestors of modern dogs, or parallel attempts at domestication that ended without descendants. The genetic evidence is unclear. Some lineages may have vanished entirely, erased by time, replaced by later domestications in other regions. Others may persist faintly within modern breeds. Archaeologists cannot yet draw a straight line from the first traces to the dogs at Bonn Oberkassel or to living animals today. The path is fragmented, uncertain, older than memory. Planetary forces shape the context of these traces. During the last glacial maximum, vast ice sheets stretch across the northern hemisphere. Sea levels drop, exposing land bridges. Steppes expand, rich with grass, but poor in shelter. Humans and wolves both endure immense distances, following herds that wander like rivers across the land. In this environment, the proximity of wolves to humans makes sense. Scarcity drives experimentation. The animals willing to linger near firelight gain scraps. The humans who tolerate them gain watchful eyes. Against the vastness of glacial earth, the traces left in bone are faint, but their significance is immense. Archaeology also offers symbolic hints. Some carved figurines from Upper Paleolithic sites appear to depict canids, their muzzles and ears distinct from other predators. Though interpretation is uncertain, their presence suggests that wolves, or proto-dogs, were observed closely enough to be represented in art. Humans noticed them not only as rivals, but as beings worthy of depiction, placed among mammoths, horses, and reindeer in the gallery of Ice Age imagery. The scale of these early interactions can be glimpsed in migration distances. Herds of reindeer and bison traveled hundreds of kilometers in seasonal cycles. Humans followed, carrying fire and tools. Wolves paralleled both, their paws pressing paths across the snow. The distance covered by all three species in a year could equal the span from Paris to Moscow, step by step, season after season. The traces of domestication are born in these journeys, carried along with the endless march of herds. One lesser-known aspect of the genetic record is the possibility of admixture. Ancient dog lineages often show signs of interbreeding with wolves, blurring distinctions. This suggests that domestication was not a clean break, but a long process of mingling, where tamed populations still met and bred with wild ones. The result is a complex pattern, part wolf, part dog, shaped by proximity and exchange. It complicates the story, but it also reveals its truth. Domestication was not an event, but a process, unfolding slowly, unevenly, older than memory. Imagine standing at the mouth of Goyet Cave 30,000 years ago. The valley lies below, silent in winter. Inside the cave, humans tend fires, their tools scattered across stone floors. At the edges, a canid skull rests, its snout shorter than the wolves howling outside. Was this animal buried deliberately, or left as refuse? Was it a companion, or merely a scavenger that lingered too close? The traces cannot tell us fully. They leave questions, unanswered but powerful. The mystery continues to shape research today. Each new bone, each new sequence of DNA adds another fragment to the puzzle. Sometimes the picture grows clearer, other times more complex. What remains certain is that the relationship between humans and wolves began long before farming, long before writing, long before memory itself. It was born in the long winters of the Ice Age, in the shadow of glaciers, in the quiet exchanges of bone and firelight. Planetary cycles remind us of the scale. Glaciers advance and retreat over tens of thousands of years, carving valleys, raising seas, shifting climates. Within this immense rhythm, the traces of domestication seem small, yet they endure, written in bone chemistry, in burial sites, in the shape of skulls. They remind us that even in the most unforgiving environments, humans formed bonds with another species, bonds strong enough to leave marks lasting millennia. These traces, older than memory, do not give us a neat beginning. They give us glimpses: a skull with a shorter snout, a burial with a dog beside a human, isotopic values matching scraps of fish. They are pieces of a story too vast to hold in full. Yet they tell us this much: by 30,000 years ago, something had begun. Wolves were already on the path toward becoming dogs. Humans were already shaping and being shaped by this bond. It is the oldest alliance, its roots sunk deep into time, far beyond the reach of memory. When humans move, they do not travel alone. Herds go before them, rivers guide them, and shadows of wolves follow just beyond sight. During the last ice age, migration is constant. Families cross plains, climb ridges, and rest in valleys carved by ice. Their fires glow against the dark, fragile marks of presence in a vast world. Wolves trace the same ground. They track reindeer, bison, and a mammoth, and at times they track people too. Out of these long journeys, the bond between humans and wolves spreads across continents. Archaeology records this shared expansion. In Western Europe, caves yield skulls with shortened snouts, not quite wolf, not yet fully dog. In Siberia, remains appear near settlements where humans lived in bone houses of mammoth tusks. In the Near East, canid bones are found at camps long before farming begins. Each site is only a fragment, yet together they show that wolves drew near to humans in many lands, adapting not to one place, but to countless environments. The scale of the Ice Age world made this possible. With sea levels lowered, grasslands stretched in wide corridors from France to Siberia, from the Black Sea to the Arctic, the Mammoth Steppe, as it is called, became a continuous zone for migration. Animals moved in immense numbers, herds dark against pale ground. Humans followed them, season after season, across thousands of kilometers. Wolves did the same. Their endurance matched the scale of the land, and their paths often crossed with those of people. Genetics adds depth to the story. Some dog lineages appear closer to European wolves, others to Asian ones. Ancient genomes suggest that domestication may not have been a single event. It may have happened more than once, in different regions, with lineages blending over time. This explains why the ancestry of dogs looks tangled, as if the bond with humans was formed and reformed across continents. Yet, despite the complexity, all signs point to origins deep in the Ice Age, carried with migrations into diverse climates. One lesser-known clue comes from the Siberian Arctic. On Zhukov Island, dog remains dated to about 9,000 years ago reveal animals selectively bred for pulling sleds. Their ancestry is far older, rooted in Ice Age domestication. By the time humans had reached such remote latitudes, dogs were already partners, adapted to extreme cold and long travel. Their presence so far north shows how far the bond had spread, long before farming reshaped the world. The mystery lies in origins. Was there a single cradle of domestication that spread outward, or several? Some researchers argue for a dual origin, one in Western Eurasia, another in the East. Others believe that humans repeatedly formed bonds with wolves, but only a few lineages endured. The truth remains unsettled. What is clear is that the relationship traveled as far as humans themselves did, adapting again and again to new settings. Planetary change set the rhythm. Ice sheets advanced, pressing life into refuges, then retreated, opening new land. Forests replaced tundra, and rivers swelled with meltwater. Coastlines shifted, revealing plains that later drowned beneath rising seas. Humans adapted with movement, always seeking food and shelter. Wolves, equally restless, followed. In every climate, whether tundra, grassland, or temperate forest, the chance for alliance reappeared. The bond was not fixed in one place, but was carried like fire, rekindled wherever people and wolves met. Imagine the open steppe of Central Asia. A band of hunters follows reindeer, sledges dragging behind. At night, a circle of fires flickers in the wind. Just beyond, wolves move, their eyes catching sparks of light. Thousands of kilometers away, in a forested valley near the Mediterranean, another camp glows. Here too, wolves linger. The distance between these camps is vast, but the scene is the same. People and wolves sharing the edges of survival. Another lesser-known detail lies in canid ornaments. At sites in the Near East, teeth of dogs or wolves appear drilled, strung as pendants. These objects show that people carried parts of these animals not just as food or waste, but as symbols. Whether they marked identity, ritual, or memory, they show that the relationship had meaning across cultures, not only in the far north, but in warmer valleys as well. The genetic record also reveals admixture. Early dogs interbred with wolves many times, refreshing their bloodlines. This mixing makes the ancestry difficult to trace, but it also explains resilience. Dogs were never separate from wolves in a single moment. They remained connected, shaped both by human closeness and by continued ties to the wild. This exchange occurred across continents, wherever humans migrated, making the story of origin more complex, but also more enduring. Planetary observation broadens the view. The Mammoth Steppe was once the largest biome on Earth, spanning Europe, Asia, and North America. It was cold but rich in grasses, supporting immense herds. This environment shaped both humans and wolves, pushing them to travel, to adapt, and to rely on one another. The bond between them is a product of this global stage, not of a single valley or camp. The migrations themselves are vast. A group moving from Central Europe to Siberia would cross more than 6,000 kilometers, a journey longer than modern nations. Along the way, they carried fire, tools, and perhaps the first proto-dogs. These animals, adapted to human presence, could survive the journey too. Across such distances, the alliance became global, spreading into every climate people entered. Still, questions remain. Did dogs reach the Americas with the first human migrations across Beringia, or later? Did every human group form bonds with wolves, or only some? The answers are incomplete. What is known is that by the end of the Ice Age, dogs had already spread widely. They were found not only in Europe but also in Asia, woven into the lives of people across varied lands. Imagine again a changing world. A glacier melts, rivers flood, forests grow. In a camp nearby, humans rest, fires burning low. At the edge, a dog curls in the snow, ears twitching to sounds in the dark. Across another continent, the same image repeats. The details differ, but the bond is constant. Across continents and climates, wolves have become dogs, and humans have accepted them as part of life. The alliance is no longer local, it is global, spread by migration, shaped by climate, and tested in every environment, from steppe to forest, from tundra to valley. The partnership endures. Across the Ice Age world, the paths of humans and dogs converge, leaving traces in bone, in burial, in memory older than history. When humans pause in their long migrations, they build camps. Fires glow at the center, hides stretch into shelters, and stone tools clatter softly in the dark. Beyond the ring of warmth lies silence and danger. The Ice Age world is full of threats, cave lions moving at night, bears stirred from winter dens, and rival humans competing for scarce game. Into this fragile circle of fire and shadow, wolves, already shifting into the form of dogs, begin to take on a new role. They become guardians of the camp. This transformation does not happen suddenly. It is born of countless nights when wolves linger at the edge of firelight. At first they come for scraps, cautious and low. But as tolerance grows, their presence changes the rhythm of human life. A wolf that lies near a camp does more than wait for bones. It hears the snap of twigs in the dark, smells the shift of wind, and growls low when danger approaches. People notice. An animal that warns before a predator strikes or an enemy nears offers something of value. Its sharp senses extend the boundary of human awareness into the night. Archaeological evidence supports this growing role. At Bonn Oberkassel, the dog buried alongside two humans more than 14,000 years ago had lived with illness, cared for during its sickness. Such care suggests deep trust. This was not a scavenger tolerated for scraps. It was a being whose survival mattered to people, perhaps because it had already proven itself in life as more than just an animal at the edge of camp. Its burial, deliberate and careful, is an early sign of dogs valued as members of the group. Genetic data adds context. By the end of the Ice Age, distinct dog lineages were already widespread. These animals were not only tolerated wolves, but shaped companions. Some show traits suited for tasks beyond scavenging, smaller jaws, varied coats, and behaviors aligned with closeness to humans. These changes did not arise by accident. They reflect generations of animals living at the heart of camps rather than the margins. Guardianship is part of this process. Those dogs that warned, defended, or bonded most closely with humans had greater chance of survival and reproduction. One lesser-known detail lies in isotopic studies of dog remains. At sites across Europe and Siberia, some dogs show diets nearly identical to humans, eating not just scraps but the same meats and fish. This indicates that dogs were fed deliberately, not left to scavenge. Such feeding is consistent with a role beyond mere tolerance. These animals were integrated into daily life, valued enough to share food. Guardians of the camp were worth the cost of feeding. The mystery lies in intent. Did humans deliberately encourage dogs to guard their camps? Or did dogs assume the role naturally, with humans only recognizing the benefit afterward? Some researchers suggest that dogs' natural vigilance made them effective sentinels without training, and humans simply learned to rely on their warning signals. Others argue that deliberate shaping must have occurred, as people noticed and favored the animals most attentive to threats. The truth may lie in both. Instinctive behavior met with human recognition, forming an early partnership of protection. Planetary forces shaped the need for guardians. The Ice Age world was unstable. Glaciers advanced and retreated, shifting the routes of herds and the patterns of human camps. With every move, threats renewed. Camps in river valleys risked predators drawn to water. Camps in forests faced sudden ambush by bears. Camps on open steppe were vulnerable to rival human groups. In all these settings, dogs' senses stretched the fragile perimeter of safety. Their watchfulness became part of survival in landscapes that shifted with climate itself. Imagine a camp on the Eurasian steppe. Fires burn low, smoke drifting into a cold sky. Families sleep under hides. At the edge of the circle, 2 dogs lie awake. Their ears twitch at distant sound. Their noses catch the faint scent of movement. A wolf prowls the dark, curious but cautious. One dog growls, the other barks sharply. The camp stirs. A hunter rises, gripping a spear. The predator fades into night. Danger is averted, not by human eyes, but by canine guardianship. Such scenes, repeated countless times, reinforce the value of these animals. Another lesser-known clue comes from paw prints. At Chauvet Cave in France, alongside paintings of lions and mammoths, archaeologists found the prints of a child walking with a canid more than 25,000 years ago. Some believe it was already a dog, not a wolf, moving calmly beside a human. Though debated, this find suggests closeness beyond tolerance, perhaps even companionship. If true, it shows that by this time, dogs had entered the inner circle of human life, following not only hunters but children as they explored. A guardian is not only protector from outside, but also companion within. Genetic studies also show that by the Holocene, soon after the Ice Age ended, dogs were widespread across Eurasia, each population adapted to local human groups. In the cold north, some grew thick coats and strong bodies for endurance. In temperate regions, smaller forms appeared. These differences suggest roles shaped by need. In many of these environments, guarding would have been among the earliest tasks, as valuable as hunting aid or companionship. Planetary scale emphasizes the significance. As glaciers locked water into ice, coastlines extended outward. Camps shifted with rivers and game. Across thousands of kilometers, dogs moved with humans, their guardianship carried into every new land. The bond became part of migration itself, ensuring safety wherever people paused to rest. In this way, guardianship was not a local adaptation but a global pattern repeated from Europe to Asia to the Arctic. The questions remain open. Did all human groups adopt dogs as guardians, albeit, or only some? Were there cultures that rejected them, continuing to see wolves only as threats? Archaeology cannot yet answer fully. What is known is that by the close of the Ice Age, dogs had already secured roles in many societies, shaping both daily survival and ritual meaning. Picture again the fragile ring of fire in a frozen valley. The people inside trust the silence because they know it is not empty. At the edge, dogs keep watch. Their presence shifts the balance of night. For the first time in human history, another species stands guard, not by chance, but by choice. It is the dawn of a partnership that will endure, reshaping both humans and dogs, binding them in vigilance and trust. When hunters set out across the frozen plains, the success of the day depends on more than skill with stone tools or strength of arm. It depends on knowledge of herds, patience in waiting, and cooperation in the chase. For humans of the Ice Age, these elements are fragile. A missed hunt can mean hunger. A failed strategy can endanger the group. Into this precarious balance, dogs, shaped from wolves, through long centuries of closeness, begin to take on a new role. No longer only scavengers, no longer only guardians of camps. They become companions in the hunt. The seeds of this partnership lie in similarity. Both humans and wolves are social hunters. They rely on communication, coordination, and shared effort to bring down animals far larger than themselves. Wolves circle, harass, and isolate the weak. Humans plan, drive, and strike with weapons. Each has strengths the other lacks. Wolves sense prey at great distance, read wind and tracks with unmatched skill, and can sustain long chases. Humans wield tools, fire, and strategies shaped by memory and teaching. Together, their abilities overlap, forming a partnership greater than either alone. Archaeological remains provide glimpses of this role. At sites across Europe and Siberia, canid bones appear among piles of reindeer, horse, and bison. Isotopic evidence shows that some dogs ate diets almost identical to humans, suggesting they were provisioned directly rather than left to scavenge. This deliberate feeding implies value likely tied not only to guarding, but also to helping in hunts. By supporting dogs with food, humans invested in their strength and loyalty, ensuring they could join in the pursuit of game. Genetics, too, hints at this history. Certain ancient dog remains show adaptations for endurance, with body shapes smaller than wolves but still suited to running. Over time, dogs diverged in form, some becoming more specialized for human needs. Though exact pathways remain debated, it is clear that selective pressures favored traits useful in partnership, obedience, stamina, and close social bonds. These traits are all vital for animals working side by side with hunters. One lesser-known detail lies in the evidence from Zhukov Island in the Siberian Arctic, where dog remains dating to about 9,000 years ago show clear signs of selective breeding. Some were built for pulling sleds, others for hunting. These roles emerged long after domestication began, but their presence so far north reflects much older traditions. For dogs to be used in specialized hunting tasks at this time, the foundation of cooperation must have been laid deep in the Ice Age. The mystery lies in how this cooperation first unfolded. Did humans actively train wolves or early dogs to assist in hunts? Or did the animals take part on their own, drawn by instinct and hunger? Some scholars suggest that early dogs may have followed hunters naturally, joining in the chase and benefiting from carcasses once the kill was made. Over time, those that worked best with humans were favored, given scraps, perhaps even protection. Others argue that humans must have recognized their potential and begun raising pups specifically for hunting tasks. The evidence is sparse, but either path leads to the same result: dogs at the side of hunters. Planetary forces frame the importance of this partnership. The Ice Age was not constant. Winters were long, summers brief, and prey herds shifted with climate. In lean times, even small advantages could mean survival. A dog that warned of hidden prey, or that harried reindeer toward a waiting spear, offered such an advantage. Across vast plains where herds roamed for hundreds of kilometers, dogs extended human senses and speed. In this way, companionship in the hunt became not only useful, but essential. Imagine a hunting scene. A group of humans crouches low on a ridge, watching a herd of reindeer graze below. Two dogs wait beside them, ears pricked, noses twitching. A hunter gestures, and the dogs move, circling wide. They dart through snow, startling the herd. Reindeer scatter, and one stumbles toward the waiting hunters. Spears fly, striking true. As the herd flees, the dogs return, panting, tails low, but bodies alive with movement. The kill is made not by humans alone, but by partnership, instinct and strategy joined. Another lesser-known clue comes from rock art. In some ancient depictions, small canid-like figures appear alongside hunters and prey. Though interpretation is debated, some believe these may represent dogs assisting in the chase. If true, they are among the earliest artistic records of the hunting partnership, showing that humans recognized and valued canine roles not only in life, but in memory. The companionship of the hunt also shaped the bond itself. Dogs that worked with humans were more likely to be fed, sheltered, and protected. In turn, humans benefited from their senses and stamina. This reciprocal cycle strengthened over generations, weaving dogs ever more deeply into human survival strategies. Hunting was not just about food, it was about trust built in shared danger. When humans and dogs ran side by side against prey larger than either could face alone, planetary scale adds context. During glacial cycles, vast herds moved across continents. A reindeer herd could number in the tens of thousands, moving like a living tide across the land. To hunt such animals effectively, cooperation was essential. Wolves already knew this. Humans learned it too. And in partnership with dogs, they refined it further. The bond that began with scraps at the fire grew into active collaboration across landscapes measured in thousands of kilometers. Still, mysteries remain. Did all groups use dogs in hunts, or only some? Were there cultures where dogs remained outside the circle? Tolerated, but not trusted in the chase? Archaeology cannot yet answer. But by the end of the Ice Age, evidence from multiple regions suggests that hunting with dogs was widespread. It became part of the shared toolkit of survival, carried into new environments as humans spread across the globe. Picture again the frozen steppe at dawn. Hunters move silently, spears ready, dogs trotting at their heels. Breath rises in clouds, the snow crunches softly. Far ahead, the herd stirs. The dogs rush forward, not to kill but to drive, to confuse, to guide prey toward human weapons. When the chase ends, meat is shared, fire is kindled, the dogs curl close, rewarded with scraps. The cycle continues day after day, hunt after hunt, until partnership becomes tradition, and tradition becomes inheritance. This companionship in the hunt marks one of the deepest roots of domestication. It is not only about food gained, but about trust forged. Humans learned to see dogs as allies, not rivals. Dogs learned to read human signals, to act not only for themselves, but in rhythm with another species. Together, they shaped a way of hunting that neither could achieve alone. It is a partnership still visible today, older than agriculture, older than history, born in the frozen silence of the Ice Age. As wolves lingered near camps and gradually became dogs, changes took place not only in behavior but in body. Domestication reshaped their form, leaving visible marks in bone, skull, and fur. What began as a cautious approach to firelight, as tolerance between species, grew into transformation carried in generations. The animals that once prowled at the edge of camps became companions with new faces, smaller jaws, varied coats, and temperaments unlike their wild kin. The earliest signs are subtle. Skulls recovered from Ice Age sites in Europe and Siberia reveal shorter snouts than wild wolves of the same time. Their teeth are smaller, less suited to crushing bone, more aligned with a diet softened by human scraps. Some show altered jaw shapes, hinting that selection for tameness and closeness had begun to mold anatomy. These differences are not dramatic at first. They emerge gradually, the result of many generations of wolves less fearful of humans surviving better near camps. Genetics confirms this deep divergence. Analyses of ancient DNA suggest that the split between wolves and the ancestors of dogs occurred at least 20,000 years ago, perhaps as early as 30,000. Over such timescales, behavior and form shifted in tandem. Wolves with calmer temperaments, less aggression, and greater tolerance thrived near humans. In turn, their bodies reflected the pressures of new lives, reduced need for powerful jaws, adaptations to diets rich in scraps, and shifts in size. Some early dogs were smaller than wolves, their frames lighter, their heads broader. One lesser-known detail comes from modern experiments. In the 20th century, researchers in Russia selectively bred silver foxes for tameness. Within only a few decades, the foxes began to show traits not targeted by selection: floppy ears, curled tails, spotted coats, and changes in skull shape. These results suggest that selection for behavior alone can trigger cascades of physical changes. Applied to wolves in the Ice Age, the same principle may explain why early dogs quickly came to look different. By favoring animals that lingered calmly near camps, humans indirectly shaped their form. The mystery lies in how much of this shaping was deliberate. Did humans notice the changes and encourage them? Perhaps even choosing pups with certain appearances? Or did the changes occur naturally, the byproduct of self-domestication? Archaeology offers no definitive answer. The earliest evidence suggests that at first, the process was unplanned. Wolves that tolerated humans survived, and their offspring inherited both temperament and form. Over time, however, humans may have recognized differences and begun to prefer animals that were smaller, easier to control, or more distinctive in coat. Thus, deliberate selection may have joined natural pressures, reinforcing the transformation. Planetary conditions also played a role. During the Ice Age, climates shifted rapidly. Herds moved across vast ranges, forcing humans and their companions to adapt constantly. Dogs that could travel long distances, endure cold, and respond to human signals had clear advantages. Their forms reflected these pressures. Strong legs, thick coats, and alert expressions became hallmarks of animals suited to life on the steppe. Later, as humans entered forests, rivers, and deserts, dogs diversified further, their forms bending to the needs of each new world. Imagine an Ice Age camp. A small dog curls near the fire, its muzzle shorter, its body lighter than wolves seen on the horizon. Children play near it, unafraid. Hunters feed it scraps of marrow, noting its patience and quietness. In the shadows, wild wolves still prowl, larger, leaner, sharper of tooth. The difference is clear. What was once one species has begun to diverge, shaped by choice, by circumstance, by companionship. Another lesser-known clue appears in coat color, genes for varied fur patterns, rare in wild wolves, appear early in the history of dogs. Spotted coats, lighter colors, and darker masks emerge as domestication progresses. These traits are linked genetically to selection for tameness, suggesting that as behavior shifted, appearance changed as well. To Ice Age humans, such coats may have stood out, making certain animals easier to identify, perhaps even favored for their uniqueness. Archaeological sites reinforce the timeline. At Elisevici in Russia, remains of canids dating to more than 17,000 years ago already show differences from wolves. In the millennia that followed, dogs spread widely, each group taking on new traits. Some became small, suited for living close to camps. Others grew strong, adapted to pulling, guarding, or hunting. Though the forms varied, all shared a bond with humans that set them apart from wolves. Planetary scale broadens the view. As glaciers locked seas into ice, coastlines stretched outward, creating corridors for migration. Humans traveled across them, carrying their dogs along. With each new region, pressures shifted. In cold lands, thick coats and endurance were vital. In warmer valleys, smaller size and adaptability mattered. Thus the form of dogs was not fixed. It flowed across continents, shaped by climate as much as by human preference. The mystery of multiple origins complicates the picture. Some genetic studies suggest that dogs may have been domesticated in more than one place, with lineages later merging. If so, the shaping of form was not a single process, but a mosaic, repeated across regions, each producing animals with distinct traits. Some of these lineages survived, others vanished. The dogs we know today may carry echoes of these lost beginnings, their forms shaped by ancient choices no longer visible. Still, the evidence converges. Domestication changed not only behavior but body. Dogs became recognizably different from wolves long before farming or settled villages appeared. Their forms recorded the closeness of their bond with humans, each generation marking the slow transformation from shadow to companion. Imagine once more the Ice Age steppe. Hunters drive reindeer across a frozen river, spears poised. Alongside them, dogs run, smaller and broader than wolves, their coats thick against the cold. They circle with instinct, responding to gestures, guiding prey into reach. When the hunt ends, the people share food with them. At night, by the fire, their curled shapes lie at the heart of camp, their forms already distinct, their future bound forever with human life. The shaping of dogs is not finished in this era. It will continue through millennia, diversifying into hundreds of breeds, each tailored to human needs. But its beginnings lie here, in the Ice Age, when wolves became more than rivals. more than scavengers. Their bodies tell the story, reshaped by companionship into forms older than history itself. The bond between humans and dogs does not leave only bones in the ground or traces in DNA. It also leaves marks in art, in carvings, in faint depictions scratched onto walls of caves. These echoes, subtle yet powerful, suggest that as wolves became dogs, they entered not only the daily survival of people but also their imaginations. To represent an animal in art is to recognize it as meaningful. Alongside mammoths, bison, and reindeer, figures that resemble canids appear, hinting that dogs were already woven into the symbolic world of the Ice Age. In caves across Europe, the walls hold images tens of thousands of years old. Horses run across stone, aurochs stand massive, lions stalk in shadow. Among them, some figures show muzzles and tails more like wolves or dogs than other predators. Interpretation is always uncertain, but the very possibility suggests that humans saw these animals as worthy of depiction. They were no longer only rivals at the edge of the fire. They had become part of the world that people chose to preserve in paint and line. One striking clue comes from Chauvet Cave in France, famous for its paintings more than 30,000 years old. Among paw prints on the floor lies a track of a child walking beside a canid. The prints cross in parallel, the small human steps joined by those of the animal. Some argue that it was a wolf. Others believe it was already a dog. Either way, the image of a child and a canid moving together deep in a cave is powerful. It suggests familiarity, even companionship, preserved in stone dust for millennia. Archaeological finds add further depth. At Upper Paleolithic sites, carved figurines of canids appear in ivory and bone. Some are stylized, their muzzles long, their ears pointed. Others are small pendants, pierced for wearing. These objects are rare but meaningful. To carve an image requires time and intent. Such effort shows that canids held a place in human thought, perhaps as symbols of hunting skill, perhaps as guardians, perhaps as companions honored in miniature. Genetic studies remind us that by this stage, dogs were already diverging strongly from wolves. Their forms were changing, their diets shifting, their roles deepening. The echoes in art may reflect this reality. People may have seen dogs not as wild predators but as distinct beings with traits closer to their own lives. Depictions of dogs may have marked identity, clan ties, or spiritual beliefs. Though we cannot know the full meaning, the very presence of such images confirms significance. One lesser-known detail lies in burial ornaments. In some graves, dog teeth appeared drilled and worn as beads. These may have been carried in life or added at death. While humans also used teeth of many animals, dog teeth carry special weight, since dogs lived closest to people. To wear the tooth of a dog may have signified a personal bond, a reminder of partnership. These ornaments are echoes, silent testimony that dogs were valued not only in life but as symbols of continuity. The mystery lies in interpretation. Were these depictions and ornaments expressions of reverence, of companionship, or of utility? Did people see dogs as protectors of the soul, guides into the afterlife, or simple markers of hunting life? Archaeology cannot yet decide. What is clear is that dogs occupied a unique space. They were present not only in camps and hunts, but also in the symbolic fabric of culture. Few other animals bridged this gap so fully, moving from rival predator to partner in life, to figure in art. Planetary forces framed this creativity. The Ice Age was not only harsh, it was also a time of flourishing symbolic expression. Humans painted, carved, and buried with meaning, even in landscapes of scarcity. The presence of dogs in this symbolic sphere shows how deeply the bond had sunk roots. Amid glaciers and shifting herds, people took time to record their connection to animals that shared their fire and followed their hunts. Imagine an Ice Age night in a cave. Fires flicker against walls painted with red ochre and black charcoal. A hunter takes a piece of bone and scratches the form of an animal with pointed ears and narrow muzzle. Beside him, a dog lies curled, watching. The figure on the wall is simple, a line and a curve, but it preserves a truth. This animal matters. It is present in life, in memory, and now in image. Another lesser-known clue comes from Siberia. At sites like Yana rhinoceros horn, objects shaped from canid bones suggest use in ritual. Whether they were charms, tools, or symbolic items is uncertain, yet their presence shows that people were not indifferent to these animals. Dogs and proto-dogs provided not only utility but meaning. Their remains carried beyond simple disposal into deliberate acts of shaping and keeping. Planetary scale offers perspective. As glaciers withdrew, human groups spread into new regions, carrying their culture and their dogs. The echoes of dogs in art and bone followed too. From Western Europe to Siberia, from caves to open-air camps, the traces are scattered yet consistent. This wide distribution shows that recognition of dogs as significant beings was not confined to one culture. It spread across the mammoth steppe, a shared thread in human imagination. The shaping of dog form, noted in skulls and coats, is reflected here in symbolic echoes. A dog that warns of danger becomes more than a tool. It becomes a figure in ritual, a mark on a pendant, a paw print beside a child. This layering of roles, from guardian to companion to symbol, marks the deepening of domestication. Dogs had moved beyond survival. They had entered story. Still, questions remain. Were dogs seen as mediators between human and wild, bridging the boundary between camp and forest? Did their ability to sense the unseen give them spiritual importance? The answers remain unknown. But the echoes in rock and bone suggest such possibilities. Humans marked what mattered. Dogs, already present in art and burial, clearly mattered deeply. Picture again the cave floor at Chauvet. The child's footprints wander, toes pressed into dust, steps light. Beside them, the paw prints of a canid run parallel. Thousands of years later, archaeologists kneel and trace these tracks with fingertips. They see not only evidence but a story. Human and dog moving together in darkness, bound by curiosity and trust. The prints are echoes, older than memory, preserved in silence yet speaking still. Through these echoes, we glimpse the transformation of wolves into dogs not only as biological change but as cultural union. Their presence in art, ornaments, and ritual shows that they had crossed a boundary no other predator crossed. They had entered the symbolic world of humans, becoming figures of meaning as well as companions of survival. In rock and bone, their memory endures, telling us that by the height of the Ice Age, the partnership was already more than practical. It was part of the human story itself. When the great ice sheets began their long retreat, the world changed in profound ways. Rivers swelled with meltwater, valleys filled with forests, and grasslands shifted into new shapes. the rhythm of human life also changed. Hunters who had once followed herds across endless steppe now paused longer in fertile regions. Camps grew into seasonal villages, and seasonal villages into more permanent places of settlement. Within these new rhythms, dogs, already distinct from wolves, took on roles more firmly bound to human futures. The transition from mobile bands to early settlements did not happen overnight. For thousands of years, people remained flexible, shifting between nomadic hunts and semi-permanent camps. Yet archaeological evidence shows that by the late Upper Paleolithic and into the Mesolithic, humans began to stay longer in certain areas. The retreat of glaciers opened rich river valleys filled with fish, game, and plant foods. Here, dogs found new niches, no longer confined to hunting alone or guarding mobile camps. They became woven into daily life in emerging settlements. Archaeological finds from sites such as Lepenski Vir in the Balkans, dating to around 9,000 years ago, suggest that dogs lived closely with people in riverside communities. Their remains are found in domestic contexts, sometimes buried within or near houses. Such placement indicates more than utility. It shows belonging. These dogs were not only tolerated but integrated into the very spaces where people lived, ate, and raised children. Genetic studies confirm their spread. By this time, dogs were present across Europe, Asia, and the Near East, each population showing signs of adaptation to local conditions. In some regions, their diets matched humans almost exactly, suggesting deliberate feeding from household stores. In others, dogs show evidence of scavenging from middens, yet still tolerated within settlements. Their presence was global, and their bond with humans more secure than ever before. One lesser-known detail lies in dog burials at early farming sites in the Fertile Crescent. Long before full agriculture became dominant, some dogs were buried with care, sometimes alone, sometimes with humans. These burials signal a recognition of dogs as companions in settled life. Not only in the hunt, their inclusion in ritual reflects their value as enduring partners in communities that were beginning to shape the future of human society. The mystery remains. What roles did dogs serve most in these early settlements? Were they primarily hunters still? Or had their tasks expanded into guarding stored food, keeping predators from houses, and even managing livestock as herding began? Archaeology provides glimpses but no final answers. Bones alone cannot show whether a dog barked at strangers, chased off wild boar, or helped control early herds of goats. Yet the diversity of contexts in which their remains appear suggests multiplicity. Dogs were already versatile, shifting with human needs. Planetary forces provided the backdrop. As the Holocene warmed, climates stabilized compared to the harsh swings of the Ice Age. This relative stability allowed humans to experiment with longer-term settlements. Dogs adapted with them. In forests, they aided in tracking game more elusive than steppe herds. In river valleys, they guarded stores of fish and grain. On coasts, they scavenged alongside people, warning of predators. Their flexibility mirrored that of humans, allowing both species to thrive in changing worlds. Imagine a riverside settlement. Houses of wood and stone line the bank, smoke curling from hearths. Children play near the water, women clean fish, men repair nets and tools. Among them move dogs, their coats mottled, their sizes varied. Some lie near doorways, ears alert. Others trot along the edge of the village, sniffing for intruders. One joins a hunting party, setting out into the forest. These animals are part of the settlement's rhythm, no longer outsiders. Their futures are bound to human futures, day by day. Another lesser-known clue comes from isotopic analysis of dog remains in northern Europe. Some show diets high in marine protein, evidence that dogs ate fish provided by humans. This detail reveals not only feeding patterns but also the range of their environments. Dogs were not limited to inland steppe hunters. They were integrated into fishing communities as well. Their versatility, captured in bone chemistry, reflects their adaptability to new modes of life. The symbolic role of dogs also deepened. In some Mesolithic cemeteries, dogs were buried with grave goods similar to those of humans. Pendants, tools, or ornaments appear alongside their bodies. Such treatment suggests that dogs had become companions in identity as well as survival. To honor a dog in death with objects of meaning is to acknowledge it as part of the social world. This level of integration marks a profound step in domestication, one that extends beyond utility into recognition of shared existence. Planetary scale again emphasizes significance. The retreat of ice raised sea levels, drowning coastal plains that had once been rich hunting grounds. New forests spread, challenging humans with unfamiliar prey. Yet through all this, dogs remained present, adapting with people to landscapes transformed. Their ability to shift roles from steppe hunter to forest tracker, from camp guardian to village companion, made them invaluable in an unstable world. Still, questions endure. Did every settlement embrace dog? Or were there groups that resisted them, clinging to older views of wolves as rivals? Some sites lack evidence of dog, suggesting variation in adoption. The process was not uniform. Different cultures, different needs, and different environments all shape the human-dog bond in unique ways. Yet the overall pattern remains clear. By the time permanent settlements arose, dogs were already part of the human story almost everywhere. Picture again the evening in a riverside village and the sun sinks low, shadows lengthen across the water. Families gather in houses and fires flickering inside. At each doorway, a dog rests, head lifted, ears sharp. In the forest beyond, predators prowl, but the village is not undefended. The dogs, shaped by millennia of closeness, hold their place as guardians, companions, and partners. Their forms are no longer wolf, their lives no longer wild. They belong here, as much a part of the settlement as the people themselves. The shared future of humans and dogs is set in these moments. As humans move toward agriculture, toward herding and farming, dogs will adapt once more, becoming herders, hunters, guardians, and companions in new ways. But the foundation is already firm. In settlements of the early Holocene, the partnership deepens, binding two species into a shared destiny. Dogs are no longer only echoes in rock and bone, no longer only shadows at the edge of fire. They are part of homes, part of villages, part of futures that stretch forward into history. Their shared path with humans is no longer provisional. It is enduring, woven into daily life, carried from camp to camp, from valley to valley, from one generation to the next. Even after decades of study, the stories of how wolves became dogs remains incomplete. Archaeology, genetics, and anthropology provide fragments, bones with shortened snouts, burials with care, DNA sequences split from wolves tens of thousands of years ago, yet the full picture resists clarity. It is an unfinished puzzle, its pieces scattered across continents and deep time. What we know suggests a long, complex process, shaped by both human choice and canine adaptation. What we do not know continues to stir debate, keeping the origins of dogs among the greatest mysteries of prehistory. One source of uncertainty lies in geography. Did domestication begin in one place, spreading outward, or in several places, later merging into a single lineage? Some genetic studies point to Western Eurasia, others to Eastern Asia. Fossil evidence shows early dog-like remains in both regions. At Goyet Cave in Belgium, skulls dated to over 30,000 years ago bear traits distinct from wolves. In Siberia, canid remains of similar age suggest early divergence too. Both cannot be the sole origin. Perhaps multiple domestications occurred, only some enduring into the present, yet without more evidence, the debate remains unresolved. Another puzzle lies in timing. Estimates for the split between wolves and dogs range widely. Some studies suggest 15,000 years ago, others 30,000 or more. This range reflects not only gaps in data, but also the reality that domestication was not a single event. It was a gradual process, unfolding over thousands of years. Wolves at the edge of firelight did not become dogs overnight. They became dogs slowly, generation by generation, their bodies and behaviors shifting until the difference became undeniable. One lesser-known detail complicates the timeline further. Ancient genomes reveal that early dogs interbred with wolves multiple times, blending and reblending their lineages. This ongoing admixture blurs the boundary between species, making it difficult to pinpoint the moment of domestication. Instead of a clean split, the story looks more like a braid, strands weaving together, separating and merging again. Each crossing added complexity, obscuring the clear line researchers hope to find. The mystery extends into culture. Were all human groups equally open to wolves becoming dogs, or did some resist? Archaeological records show variability. Some settlements contain dog burials with signs of ritual care. Others, even contemporary ones, lack dog remains entirely. This suggests that acceptance was not universal. In some places, wolves remained only rivals and threats. In others, they crossed into partnership. Why certain groups embraced dogs while others did not is unknown. The puzzle includes not only when and where, but also why. Planetary forces further complicate the story. Climate change shaped human movements and opportunities for contact with wolves. During the last glacial maximum, humans crowded into refuges where prey was scarce. In such conditions, wolves near camps may have been more tolerated, scraps more freely given, cooperation more valuable. Later, as climates warmed and forests expanded, hunting strategies shifted. The role of dogs may have changed too. From partners in open-steppe hunts to guardians and companions in wooded valleys, climate shaped not only landscapes but the very dynamics of domestication. Imagine an Ice Age camp on the steppe. Dogs linger near the fire, smaller and calmer than wolves still howling in the distance. 1,000 kilometers away, another camp chooses differently, driving wolves off with stones. One path leads to partnership, another does not. Both leave traces in the archaeological record, but only one leads to the lineage of modern dogs. The puzzle is not only about bones and genomes, but about choices made again and again by people facing uncertain nights. Another lesser-known clue comes from symbolic evidence. In some regions, dog remains appear in burials alongside humans, adorned with ornaments. In others, they appear in refuse pits, treated as food or waste. This duality reflects cultural variation, further complicating the story. For some, dogs were companions. For others, they remained resources. Archaeology captures both. leaving us with a puzzle of contrasts. Genetics deepens the enigma. Modern dogs show ancestry linked to now extinct wolf populations, and this means the wolves that gave rise to dogs no longer exist. Their genetic lines vanished in the wild, leaving only descendants shaped by domestication. This makes tracing origins more difficult, because the living wolves we study today are not the exact ancestors of dogs, but distant cousins. The true ancestral wolves are gone, their memory preserved only in the genomes of dogs themselves. Planetary perspective offers one more layer. As glaciers advanced and retreated, humans crossed continents. Some brought dogs, others perhaps did not. In the Americas, the earliest secure evidence of dogs dates to about 10,000 years ago. Yet people had crossed from Siberia earlier. Did they bring dogs with them at first? Or did dogs arrive later with new migrations? The evidence is still debated. Each discovery shifts the picture, but no single answer holds. The unfinished puzzle is not a weakness of knowledge, but a reminder of complexity. Domestication was not a simple act of taming. It was a process spanning thousands of years, countless interactions, multiple regions, and shifting climates. It was shaped by chance, by culture, by the quiet persistence of wolves that dared to approach, and by humans who chose tolerance over hostility. The fragments we hold today, skulls, teeth, DNA, burials, are enough to outline the story, but not enough to complete it. Imagine once more the deep past. A wolf pup curls near the ashes of a fire, tolerated by hunters who see no threat. Far away, another pup is cast out, its lineage lost. In one valley, dogs are buried with honor. In another, they are consumed in hunger. These choices, scattered across continents, ripple forward into time, shaping the bond we know today. The puzzle remains unfinished because its pieces were never uniform. The domestication of dogs was not one story, but many, merging and diverging like rivers across the Ice Age world. One lesser-known aspect of this puzzle is how quickly dogs adapted once domesticated. By the early Holocene, only a few millennia after their emergence as distinct from wolves, dogs were already diverse, sled pullers in the Arctic, companions in Mesolithic villages, hunters in forests. This speed suggests that once the bond was firm, selective pressures moved rapidly, shaping form and function alike. Yet the first steps that made it possible remain unclear, hidden in shadows of time. The mystery endures, and perhaps it always will. Each discovery sharpens part of the picture while blurring others. New genomes, new burials, new isotopic analyses. Each adds detail, yet the full origin stays elusive. The unfinished puzzle is not a failure of evidence, but a reflection of the deep, tangled process that bound two species together across 30 millennia. In the end, what remains clear is this: long before farming, long before history, humans and wolves found a way to share their world. That shared path led to dogs, companions whose origins are older than memory, older than writing, older than certainty itself. The puzzle may never be complete, but the pieces we hold tell enough to know that the bond is ancient, resilient, and enduring. From the first wolves who crept to the edge of firelight to the dogs curled today at the feet of sleeping humans, more than 30,000 years have passed. Across those millennia, the bond has endured, evolving with every shift in climate, culture, and survival. It began as chance, wolves scavenging scraps at camps, tolerated rather than chased away. Slowly, through patience and proximity, it became companionship. Dogs guarded the night, joined the hunt, and entered burials. By the close of the Ice Age, and the alliance was no longer tentative, it was permanent, written into the shared futures of two species. The breadth of this companionship is immense. Dogs followed humans across the mammoth steppe, through forests newly born of retreating glaciers and into valleys rich with rivers and game. They crossed land bridges into new continents, adapting as readily as people did. Wherever humans went, dogs followed, partners in mobility, endurance, and trust. Archaeological sites from Europe to Siberia to the Near East all bear their traces. In each, the message is the same: humans and dogs travel together. Genetic evidence affirms this wide reach. Ancient genomes show that by 15,000 years ago, dogs were already distinct from wolves and spread across Eurasia. Some lineages trace back to Western Europe, others to Eastern Asia. Over time, these lineages blended, producing the dogs we know today. The diversity of their ancestry reflects the vastness of their travels, a living archive of migrations alongside humans. No other domesticated animal has roots so deep in prehistory. One lesser-known detail lies in how quickly dogs adapted once fully part of human life. Within only a few thousand years, they had specialized forms: sled dogs in the Arctic, hunting dogs in forests, guarding dogs in early villages. This speed suggests that once the bond was secure, selective pressures, both human and environmental, shaped them rapidly. A process that began with scavenging grew into profound diversity, all rooted in that first step toward firelight. The mystery that remains is not whether dogs were domesticated, but how many times and where. Some evidence suggests a single origin. Other data point to multiple beginnings, later merging into one lineage. The truth may never be settled fully. What is clear is that dogs arose not from a single act, but from countless interactions: bones tossed to the edge of camp, pups raised in the shelter of hides, tolerance granted again and again until it became tradition. The puzzle is unfinished, and yet the outcome is certain. Dogs are with us still. Planetary forces frame this long companionship. During the Ice Age, glaciers covered vast regions, lowering seas and exposing new lands. Humans and dogs traveled together across corridors that no longer exist. Grasslands now drowned beneath oceans, valleys carved by ice. As the Holocene began, climates warmed, seas rose, and forests spread. Dogs adapted with humans to these shifts, thriving in deserts, tundra, forests, and coasts alike. Their resilience mirrors our own. Together, they moved through planetary change, surviving upheavals that reshaped Earth itself. Imagine a timeline stretching from the first quiet approach to the present, 30 millennia marked by firelight, paw prints, and migrations. At one end, wolves linger cautiously at camps, uncertain yet curious. At the other, dogs live in home, fields, in cities. Their roles multiplied beyond imagining. The line between wild and domestic is long crossed. What remains is continuity, the unbroken presence of dogs at human sides. Another lesser-known clue of this continuity comes from isotope studies showing that dogs' diets often mirrored those of humans almost exactly. From reindeer on the steppe to fish in river valleys, from mammoth marrow to stored grain. Dogs ate what people ate. Their bodies record a shared table, a companionship rooted in sustenance. Few partnerships in nature are so closely bound. The scale of migration underscores the bond. A human journey from Europe to Siberia spans more than 6,000 kilometers. To survive such distance requires endurance, planning, and adaptability. Dogs managed it too, not as burdens, but as partners. Their paw prints stretch alongside human footprints across frozen rivers, mountain passes, and plains. Together, they traversed landscapes wider than empires, long before nations existed. Mysteries linger. Did dogs first become guardians, hunters, or companions? Were they recognized as spiritual beings, guides, or protectors? The evidence gives hints but no certainty. Yet what matters most is not the unresolved detail, but the enduring pattern. Across burials, carvings, genomes, and settlements, the story repeats. Humans and dogs together. That truth, though shaped by mystery, remains steady. Planetary observation offers perspective on endurance. In 30 millennia, glaciers advanced and retreated. Seas rose more than 100 meters. Forests grew and receded. Deserts formed and vanished. Species came and went. Mammoths, woolly rhinoceros, giant deer. Yet through all these changes, humans and dogs survived, side by side. Their companionship weathered planetary cycles, proving resilient in a world of constant change. Picture once more an Ice Age camp. The fire burns low, families sleep under hides, their breath rising in clouds. Beyond the fire, a dog lies curled, ears twitching at distant sound. The night is vast, the dark endless, yet the camp is not alone. Across the millennia, the image endures, human and dog, bound in silence, guarding one another against the unknown. By the dawn of agriculture, this bond is unshakable. Dogs enter villages as herders and protectors. They adapt to fields and flocks, to farms and settlements. The world will change again. Cities will rise. Empires will fall. Technologies will multiply, but dogs will remain. Their forms will diversify into hundreds of breeds, yet their essence will remain the same. Companions who chose to walk beside us. 30 millennia together is more than history. It is continuity across worlds. From steppe to village, from mammoth hunts to hearthside rest. Dogs have stood with humans through every transformation. Their presence is written not only in bones and DNA, but in memory carried forward. Even as mysteries remain, the truth of companionship is clear. Wolves who dared to approach fire became dogs who live among us still. A bond older than writing, older than history, older than certainty itself. The bond between humans and dogs stretches across 30 millennia, older than fields of grain, older than cities of stone, older than the names we give to time itself. It began in silence with wolves at the edge of firelight, and grew into companionship carried through hunts, burials, and settlements, across every shift of climate, across every migration. The bond endured. Today, the full story remains unfinished. The exact place, the precise moment, the single path of domestication may never be known. Yet the fragments are enough. Bones buried with care, paw prints beside children, genomes diverging in deep time, all tell of a relationship unlike any other. It is a thread woven into human life, strong enough to outlast glaciers and rising seas. In the stillness of history, one truth endures. Humans and dogs chose one another. Out of fear and hunger, out of patience and trust, they formed a companionship that reshaped both species. The world has changed again and again, yet the image remains constant. A person at rest, a dog nearby, the night watched by shared eyes. As we look back into that vast distance, much remains unknown. But what endures is the bond itself, carried through generations, a quiet presence beside every fire, every journey, every home,